Yeah, hi there. Today I'm here with Wouter von Marum. He's a backend engineer at a web-to-print company. He's doing most of his work in PHP, I guess it is,
Yep,
right? Wouter, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's warm at the moment, as people might know.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I'm doing well. I just came out of work, so that was nice.
So can you tell us a bit about what you are working on?
We are working on multiple things in the company. So we work on a customer dashboard application that helps customer support doing their stuff just a little bit easier, better, make it quicker. So we do that. We also are migrating from an old system to a new one at the moment. And apart from work, I'm also working on my own websites, applications. I have a few in a pipeline that I still need to work on.
Okay,
I'm
can you
still,
tell us about them?
Back in the day, I had a financial application that I used, but it was
Like
kind
for
of terrible.
budgeting or?
Yeah, budgeting. Yeah. So, and it was kind of bad. It didn't work how I wanted to, and I was always missing something. Um, so I started a project a few times over, I think.
Hmm.
But more or less every time because of the same reason. Every time I had the idea, but then I was kind of missing the just how useful it should be. So
Okay.
in the beginning, I had a whole admin dashboard, which wasn't what I was looking for. And then last week, I started building with the idea of just having a sort of calendar budgeting app, sort of. So basically all in one, because I always miss assignments and stuff that I need to do, and other yeah, just other meetings that I have outside of work. But I also use it normally to set up payments so I don't forget them. So I get notifications, and using the calendar isn't just it. So want
Absolutely.
to want to build something that will fit my calendar needs that will also work with my budgeting needs.
Oh, that's so cool. Does it integrate with like a banking API or something?
I've been looking. 2 days ago, I was looking at the PSD2 documentation.
Oh yeah, that's
Um,
a monstrosity
yeah,
of a regulation. Yeah.
it is. So I'm looking at it, and I think for the MVP phase, I will just use it as is. So set up a budget, set up recurring payments, so I can track them at least. So that's the standard goal that I have. And then if I can hook up the bank's PSD2 connection, that would be amazing. So I think I will dip my toe into that like in a few months.
So for those who don't know, PSD2 is like, I guess it's Payment Service Directive,
Yeah,
and it's a regulation by the European Union, which includes a lot of things, but also like a requirement for banks to offer standardized APIs. I guess that is.
yeah, and they basically offer a way to have insights in your own transaction details,
Hmm.
which wasn't there a few years ago. At least I think PSD2 is out for quite a while now, but before that we didn't have any way except for exporting CSVs, Excels, and XMLs, I think, which isn't like all that great.
Yeah.
And there's no way to fully automate it because banking systems are generally quite heavy on the security side, which is
Absolutely,
as
which is a good
expected.
thing.
Yeah, which is expected, but that means that you cannot set up an automated workflow to export all the data every day or every week. You
Yeah, I
need to do
got it.
that by hand. Yeah.
So you do all your work in PHP?
Most of my work is in PHP, so I came from the Laravel ecosystem. I worked with Laravel for about 9 years. And then 1.5 years ago, I switched over to the Symfony side,
Okay.
but that was for my job. So my job uses Symfony, um, and I still to use Laravel for my own project. So
So I think PHP is the language which has so often announced that already, but still sticks around and evolves.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
how do you like it actually? Like I mean, for me personally, last time I touched PHP was probably 10 years ago. So I have no idea what happened in the meantime.
I started out when I think I was 14 or 15. So that's when I started. I saw a video where someone showed that you can basically build a dynamic web page, and I was like, I want to do that. And then I started with PHP, no HTML, no CSS, no nothing, just
Mm.
PHP. So, and I got all the errors in the world that I could get, and I couldn't figure it out. And then after after just trying and trying and trying, I managed to get it to work. And as every amazing web developer does, they always build their own CMS first, and then
Yeah.
yeah. So
And there was like back in the day, there was even a thing for not only single developers but also like agencies. Everyone had their own CMS or
yeah,
shop system.
yeah. So I started with that. So I started with PHP, then I learned how HTML worked. CSS I touched, but always kind of stays too tough. It's kind of annoying for me to learn because I don't fully grasp it. So I'm basically very glad that we have UI components nowadays, so I can just push it in and just hope that it works.
Yeah.
So that's my part of the design side. I try not to touch that. And then I basically also learned JavaScript because in the PHP world, it's from what I've seen, it's quite normal to learn JavaScript, PHP, and basically everything in between to make it
Hmm.
work somehow. I'm not fully sure how it is in other ecosystems within the programming world, but I've also noticed that some other people in the Python world sometimes only know Python. So I'm not fully sure how that is, but I think that's a unicorn. I think more people will know JavaScript and stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we tend to forget that there is like a whole software world outside what's happening on the web.
yeah,
Like data analytics, this is where Python shines, or like
yeah,
embedded systems, this might be where Rust shines. There's probably no JavaScript in there, but I think 90% of software development now is on the web.
yeah.
And so you can't get around without knowing at
No,
least a little bit of JavaScript.
yeah, yeah, fully true. So basically, I started with on that part, and then eventually I moved over to CodeIgniter,
Hmm.
which was maintained by Alice Lab back in the days. And Alice Lab is a company that also has their own enterprise system.
I
And that's
remember them vaguely.
yeah. And at some point they sold CodeIgniter to a university, which
Hmm.
made it closed source for a little while, I think. And that was the moment that I was looking for a different framework. So I looked at the documentation for Symfony and the documentation for Laravel, which was basically just released around 2011, more or
Hmm.
less. And I came to the conclusion that I liked the documentation side of Laravel more. So I started learning that. Got my first job as a general PHP job, so no frameworks, no nothing. So all the stuff that we made wasn't allowed to have any sort of framework.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was kind of kind of weird, to
That,
be honest.
that's a bit weird, yeah.
Yeah, so I worked around it by using the Slim framework and using basically injecting Eloquent into it and the whole Blade templating system and stuff. So I basically made my
Got
own.
it. Love it.
Yeah, did
So
that,
cool.
and then um, after that, I joined a company that was using Laravel, and basically it helped me also learn a lot more about JavaScript, HTML, also the CSS part, but not too much because I still kind of disliked it at that moment.
Hmm.
And after that, basically every company that I worked for had something basically worked with Laravel. So all those years was basically Laravel focused development, and also eventually Vue.js, React, Next.js. So all those things.
All the trendy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you started actually with PHP and programming like at the age of 14 or 15 or something?
Yeah.
But you told me like you didn't start as a developer in your career at
No,
first, right?
I
So can
didn't.
you tell us how that happened?
Oh, that's a it's quite personal story, but it's the whole reason
O
why.
only if you want to share it.
Oh yeah, no issue at all. But at that moment, I was going to school. Like I was in my last year basically, and my girlfriend became pregnant. So I finished my school, decided in the summer vacation that I move out. So I told my parents, "Have a nice day," and I'm going to live with my girlfriend. And then I started working at a factory for about 5 years, 5.5 years, more or less. And in those years, I basically kept learning PHP by myself. Like I
Wow.
joined the Laravel community Slack channel back in the day, so that was nice. But apart from that, I didn't have anyone who told me, "Hey, this is wrong, this is right." It was all
Oh
like
wow. So
learning by example and learning by failure. Yeah,
that's a lot of discipline, I get. I mean, you have your first flat, you have your girlfriend, she's pregnant, you're starting your family, you need to pay the bills somehow, and then
yeah,
on the side learning all that stuff.
yeah,
Wow, that's impressive.
yeah. Kind of felt like it was normal because it was more or less of a hobby in the beginning. So I just liked the idea of building my own websites and seeing something that I created by myself. And then at some point, I, f- I was talking to someone in the Netherlands over here in the Slack channel, and he was like, "Yeah, you could always try to pivot from a factory employee to software developer." He's like, and I was like, "Yeah, but don't you need a degree and all that stuff?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, you can always just try. Maybe there's one company that will give you a chance, and then you can see
Yeah,
how it will turn out," which
I
kind of
think
happened.
that's so cool about the tech industry in general. Like the path for transition is so open, very much more than in other, let's say, knowledge related industries.
Yeah, and what I noticed after many years, it's easier in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
When if I'm looking at the industry now, it is hard. Like getting a job,
Yeah,
I see a lot of people who struggle a lot with that. Back in the day, it was a little bit easier, but I also had a company who wasn't that big. They had they just needed an extra pair of hands, and it didn't matter to them if it was a fresh set of hands or someone with more knowledge. Fresh set meant just less money to spend. So I think that was my luck.
yeah, okay, got it. So, how do you think like the industry, I think you mentioned it already, like it changed, it's a bit harder for all of us right now. So what do you think like has changed in the, let's say, last couple, 5 or 10 years?
I think that the big companies kind of messed it up somehow. Like there are a lot of opportunities in big companies, like the FANG companies from back in the day, which isn't called FANG anymore. It's called different now, apparently.
Yeah,
Um,
obviously.
but I think that's mainly it. So in the beginning, a lot of investors spend a lot of money for those companies because they could basically sell personal information based of Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. If something is free, it isn't free. It's simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So so I think that part, and then if you also include the fact that at some point money needs to return to the investors, and when that doesn't happen, you get that people are getting laid off and all that stuff. So it's quite normal cycle, I think. But at this point, everything is moving so fast. Um, there are lots of regulations within the EU, of course, which is um, not fully sure if I stand behind all of those because it's still limiting yeah, quite a lot of progress within the EU itself
Yeah,
in that sense. But you can see that investors are like, they don't, they do want to invest, but they also don't want to lose their money all the time.
absolutely.
So I think that's where the whole issue with getting a job is harder nowadays than back in the day. Because back in the day, you had just small companies, a lot of companies who had 50 employees, more or less, at least in the Netherlands. So it was more of a family company.
Yeah,
So it was easier to hire someone. And nowadays, you see a lot more companies, bigger agencies who also cannot afford to hire a junior out of nowhere. It's like either media or senior. Um, if possible, have all the skills that you need to build a full stack application deployed on AWS and have some monitoring in place and all that stuff. So basically, you need a whole team. You need to be a team nowadays.
yeah, absolutely. So how big is your team at work?
In total, we have 100 plus employees, more or
Okay.
less. So I think 30-40% are developers, more or less, and then all the others different jobs, customer support, HR, um, designers, all that stuff.
Did you see like also a change in, let's say, the hiring at your company?
Um, Not really, to be honest. When I looked at the vacancies when I applied there, we had a few positions open, and when I'm looking now, we have almost the same amount of positions open. So
So you are still actively hiring?
we are actively hiring. Yeah, no developers, but we are actively hiring. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean a lot of people like report about like ghost job opportunities, ghost job ads that
yeah,
are there but never get filled.
yeah.
Is that something that you have experienced as well?
Um, no, I'm thinking no,
Yeah, I
I
think it's
didn't.
less a European thing actually, and it's more on the larger companies
Yeah,
because they need, like for marketing reasons, keep up the illusion that they still have a lot of money to spend on people and that they are still like attractive for people and stuff. Yeah, interesting.
yeah.
So how long have you been with that company? Is that like
I'm working now 1.5 year, more or less.
okay? So I mean, that makes your last job seeking experience quite recent.
Yeah, yeah.
So how was it? I mean, that's
Um,
already 1.5 year ago. That was the beginning of 2024, probably. We already had like ChatGPT and all the stuff. So did that influence your job search, or
no,
do you
it
think
actually
that?
didn't.
Yeah.
No, the most so the thing that I feared the most was that I didn't know how Symfony worked under the hood.
Okay.
So the assignment that I got was quite fun because they had an actual solution that we run into within the company, and that we are in a printing business. That means that all the cards that you make on the website at us are shipped out basically.
Hmm.
And that part of shipping out the complete shipments, yeah, needs to be done in a efficient way. so
Absolutely.
so the interview assessment was based on basically the premise of how do you make a shipment as efficient as possible with these amounts of orders. The courier has only spots for this many packages, all that kind of stuff.
So
Yeah,
basically, what you're working on is like web to print. People go there, upload images, and get a postcard or a business
yeah,
card or something like that out of it. So
yeah.
do you have the whole process, like printing and shipment in-house, or how does it work?
We have the printing with uh, a few partners who the company had the opportunity to use the cheapest ones, but they chose to have one or two printing partners, from what I understood. And they worked with them for 10 years or now. or so. So yeah, they stick with the same companies more or less.
So, but that involves like a lot of things that you need to care about, like in the software, like talking to third-party systems, making sure that stuff arrives, making sure it gets shipped the proper way, and
Yeah,
that sounds like a lot of stuff you wouldn't have like in a regular only software app.
so luckily for me, most of that stuff was built already and isn't part of the team that I work on.
Oh, okay, yeah, lucky you.
So we tend to focus on the in-house teams. So we build software for the internal teams, administration software, basically everything to make their lives easier. Basically, we try to do that as focused as we can, based on the current state of the application, as one should, of course. But that also includes keeping track of shipment information and stuff. So every now and then you have a ticket where you don't know, where you just don't know how it works. Then you need to communicate with other teams and get the information.
Okay,
That's
got it.
just how it goes. Yeah.
Like you have a lot of developers on the team. You have like a lot of third-party systems to talk to. How do you like in the team manage yourself? Are there any tools that you use to like keep updated on API changes or setting up development environments? I'm certainly probably you are using something like Scrum or other agile methodologies. Is there something where you say, okay, that's clever. This way we are really more productive?
We have a Docker system running. I haven't seen this at the agencies that I worked here before, but we have a Docker system running where you can pull part of the system,
Hmm.
um, and that you develop that locally and work with that locally, and all the other parts of that system will go to the test environment basically.
Ah,
Um,
okay, so
so
parts of the applications are like remote on the cloud somewhere, and the part that you're working on is a local Docker container?
yeah, so basically you pull all the containers for all the stuff that you need.
Uh-huh.
Also, you also include the parts of the application that you don't work on at this moment, but these are basically proxied to the test environment. So if I work on the administration dashboard, for example, that's something that I use locally, but that means that other parts of the system, for example, the front end, will work
Mm.
using the proxy URLs and data and stuff.
Ah, okay, that's so cool. So this way you guarantee that the whole system runs, not only the part that you're working on, but
Yeah,
still isn't overly taxing on your local machine, right?
yeah, exactly. So basically, those images are built beforehand, so you just pull a built image, which includes like the proxy information and stuff. So
Is that something that you've built in-house, like the tooling around
yeah,
that?
they actually build it in house. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how, is it still maintained? I mean, how many people are maintaining it, or is it just like written once and it still works, no
I'm
changes at
I'm
all? Or
I'm not fully sure about that. I think
okay,
it's still maintained, I guess, because new repositories are being made every now and then, and they are also hooked within that system if needed. Um, which means that you need to do a Docker pull and pull the images when needed, of course. But most of the time, like if I'm looking back for a year, I only needed to pull the actual images 3 times more or less to get all the latest images so the system works.
oh wow,
So
that's so cool.
most of the times it doesn't break when you have something missing, but sometimes when you come inside a part of the application that needs it and it breaks, then somebody in DevOps will be like, yeah, you should pull the new Docker images, and then basically it fixes itself.
Okay, that's so cool. But you don't have any internals about that, right? Or
Uh,
that you can share.
no,
Got it. Okay. So how do you like manage your personal projects then? Like, do you also have like a system built to switch between projects on your for your side projects, or how do you manage them?
basically my side projects are just run within Docker most of the times.
Okay.
Um, and then it's the bare bones setup. So Postgres, the Laravel web server that is default running. so more or less, and then the build system is basically included within it, which is you can find that on the documentation website. So it's an all-in-one package, and then you can put stuff in that you need or take everything out that you don't need. Basically, more or less that. And then as for testing deployments, a buddy of mine has a server which has Coolify hosted. So I just basically create the setup files for that and then push it, basically add the repository to Coolify as a project and then set up all the services that it needs, and then it works.
Yeah, Coolify is just like basically a tool that allows for self-hosting,
Yeah,
but still has some, I would say, convenience stuff built around it, so that it a little bit feels like being on the cloud, but you're not. You're on your
yeah,
personal
on your own
server.
VPS, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
So
nice because I personally use Minio, for example. So
mhm.
instead of AWS, I use Minio for the file upload storage.
It's basically like a self-hosted S3
Yeah,
alternative.
and it's quite nice because you can just set up the endpoints, and in Laravel, if you have one or two packages included, it just works. So it's nice.
Yeah.
It's minimal setup. That's the thing that I like the most about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's so cool. I mean, a lot of people I talked to, like they were like reporting, like, just use the tech that you know, even if it's considered the boring part of tech, and
Yeah,
just do the self-hosting, and probably don't need all that stuff that a company like Google needs.
no.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
the moment you like get the amount of visitors that Google has, then you might want to check out if everything is running fine, and then evaluate if you want to add some additional cloud stuff.
Yeah, and maybe you have then a couple of people helping you with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Like, what would something be that you would advise to people that are currently looking for a job?
Um, I think, in my opinion, the most important thing is use something, use a language that is actually asked within the industry, which is
And
counterintuitive on what I did, because PHP is big in the Netherlands, but don't try to look for a PHP job in the United States. They are there, but they are less frequent over there, from what I've seen at this moment.
probably yes. I think it's also a little bit of a reception thing, because we tend to see the larger companies, they don't use PHP. PHP is more like for small and medium-sized
Yeah,
companies. That's
yeah,
where it shines, right? Because it's just
yeah.
like
It's
no
where
nonsense tech, right?
it shined back in the day, but I think nowadays, like there are large companies that are running on Laravel nowadays,
Mhm.
so PHP has its place. But you should either use something that you love, language wise, so something that you are sticking by to the end no matter what. And that will mean sometimes that certain opportunities are hard to get, like salary wise,
Mm.
can be a difficult thing for certain languages. PHP has a sort of market cap in the Netherlands at least. But if you look at the Node.js TypeScript world, basically you go beyond that gap. So it's kind of, you need, just do what you want, and then hopefully also figure out that it's not only that language that you use that's good to use, but also just accept the fact that every language is good in its own stuff. And sometimes it might be useful to use Python instead of PHP, because data stuff with PHP can be can be a thing.
Absolutely. So you just pick the right tool for the job at hand.
Yeah, and if you need it, because if you don't need it and you want to use it because everybody's using it because it's a hype at the moment, it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that it will stay a hype for the coming 5 years or 10 years. So it's basically keep in mind what's happening in the industry, and if you don't want to switch, that's also fine. I mean, a lot of some companies are still using COBOL. So if somebody says, I'm going to learn COBOL because there's good money into it, yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? Like, I mean, there's very little demand, but also very little
When there is
supply, right?
demand, yeah,
Yeah, at least there is demand. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, okay. Like circling back to the budgeting side project that you have, like, is there something that people could look at? Is it on GitHub or something? Or
No, at the moment it isn't because um, I basically rebuilt the project 2 times, and every
Mhm.
time I wasn't like fine with it. So every time I had something to bitch about, more or less, I wasn't
Got it.
glad about it. So, and then 2, 3 weeks ago, I came to the conclusion that I basically tend to use the budgeting software in combination with a calendar-like functionality. So I might pick it up within the coming month, but vacations and stuff are also coming, so it's kind of
I mean, it's summer in Europe.
exactly. That means we aren't working that much.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what it means.
yeah. So I think I will try to build a system that will have a calendar like basically a calendar, but also have the budgeting side into it. So just a live OS kind of thing. So it's really looking, but it's quite busy at home and stuff.
Okay.
So
Like, if people would like to follow along, what would be a good way to reach out to you? Like, are you on X or LinkedIn, or what would work
yeah,
for you
I'm
best?
on X. I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn I don't use that much to post. I'm on there to play the zip game most of the time, every day once, and then I'm done. And then so there will be X and GitHub mostly.
Okay, what's your handles there?
My handle on X is WotaVM, and on GitHub I think it's Wota. Yeah, just Wota without a VM.
So, okay, it's Wouter on X and Wouter without BM on GitHub, right?
Yeah. So this and the typing in the chat because that's easier.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you. That was a nice conversation and very interesting insights.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem.